Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Years ago, I used to be down Chiswick quite a lot. And I used to be down Devonshire Road quite a lot. You know, Bobby Collins, Wacker Collins, there's all the Collinses was down there. And there was a guy down there called Albiona and also Wally, little Wally Angus. I think it's Angus or Angus, something like that. And Wally was an handful, yeah? He was an handful, Wally. Uh, they used to fly around 8, 9-handed and cause plenty of trouble. And most of them was good fighters. I was an amateur. I was not a bad fighter myself, yeah? So I come from Acton. I used to go down the club in Chiswick High Street called Three Seas. Well, just off Turner Green. It was called the Three Seas. And the fights I've had in there is mad, yeah? And I was in there one day, and the guy that I used to have trouble with all the time, Nicky Smith, yeah? Nicky, me and him had had, I don't know, 5 fights, 6 fights. And I've been down Three Seas quite a lot. And to walk into the Three Seas and to see him there, I went, oh no, not again. Here we go. And it kicked off. It kicked off, me and him kicked off in there. And, you know, like everything, he hit me across here with a bottle. To go, if he went on the floor, he was in trouble. So I had to stay up and I was a bit all over the gaff. He come to me, he's only short, 5'10". I'm 6'1", maybe 5'9" he was. And I always knock him out, always. I hit him on the chin, crash, he hit the floor, yeah? I'm not in one of them people that comes in, sticks a boot in, stabs you in the face with a glass. That ain't my game, yeah? So I went out the Three Seas and went down Chiswick High Street, walking down Chiswick High Street and bumped into Wally with Albiona and some other people. And he gave me grief, Wally. He must remember it, you know? I mean, you know, when he employed me in Twickenham, Wally and his little firm set about me, and they gave me quite a good idea. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, about 6 of them. I'm not saying 6 of them bashed me up, but they did, really. Wally started it, and, you know, Wally was a bit of an handful boxer. I was a boxer amateur. Wally just turned pro, crash. Wally gave me a few clumps. Albiona gave me a few clumps. And they steamed into me, right? And they got bashed up. So I went back to Chiswick Working Man's Three Seas. Nicky had gone. I went in there to see a few people, my mate Danny, other people. And we went looking for them in the cars, yeah? And we couldn't find them. And the next thing, I'm working in this club, yeah? And Wally come and see me, right? And I was all ready to have a fight with him. He said, hold up, mate, hold up. I apologise for what happened. Even though he bashed me up, I accepted it, yeah? He went, look, I've got a club in Twickenham. You know, I'd like you to come and have a look at it. And I went there and looked at it. He said, look, I'd like you to look after it. And I was to be there Friday, Saturday. And I was to go down the other, then he had the club around the corner, a club, yeah? But the wine bar, I was on the wine bar for a bit of time before the club even opens, yeah? So when I was there, I used to get Joe Pole come, Roy Shaw come, Alex Steen come, Ray Bender, and a lot of people used to come, fighters, yeah? And Wally used to take liberties. He was a liberty taker, Wally. He was a liberty taker. And I was talking to Kevin Suman the other day about he worked on the door with another guy. He told me, I never see that, but that must be after that I left, yeah? And he said that someone was sick in the toilet, and Wally come along, give the geezer, one of the guys on the door, a mop and a bucket and told him to go and clean it up. And the guy said to him, who do you think you're talking to, Wally? And Wally said, I'm talking to you. I employ you, do as you're told. Give him a crack. Knocked Wally right out. Wally was a liberty taker, but he become I'd say, out of condition. I mean, you know, when he was a featherweight, I think he was a flyweight, he was very fast and nimble, but he got up to about 15, 16 stone, tiny man, but big, blew right out, having a club, always drinking, all the birds went round him, and he become out of condition, he couldn't fight Wally, yeah. So I was in the club one day, and he come up to me, he said, listen, he said, I've got a bit of work for you. I think Wally got a few bob. I got a few bob later, but I think Wally got a bit of money. He gave me a few bob. It wasn't the money that I got later on. So, where it was funny, this woman, her husband died. So they left the house on probate where they couldn't find no deeds, no will or nothing. So the house became probate. Full of furniture, everything was still there. And they did look for the will, they did look for other things, but couldn't find it. So she asked Wally, and Wally got hold of me to look after it. So I went there, but Wally told me that I'll be living in a dog kennel. Oh, dog kennel? Anyway, when I got there, it was unbelievable flat in the back. It was called a dog kennel because she couldn't get planning permission, and she did get planning permission. It's always been called the dog kennel, but it was a lovely flat. So I lived in there, yeah? And, now and again, I just get people come, try and bully their way in. I'd have a row, fights here and there, throw right-handers, and, in the end of the day, no one comes back. And so one day, I got a knock on the door, and it was this big guy, with another guy, both big guys. And the guy that was an unlicensed fighter, boxer, I ain't going to say his name, because the last time I put his name on, he didn't really like it, yeah? So, anyway, he kept his name out of it. He wanted me to do a book, yeah? The gear's called Julian Davis. So I said, yeah, I'll do a book. I was quite excited, but I've been 2 days on the gear, so I was in a bit of a bad way. But anyway, we done it, and I went in the back garden and took a photograph of this big geezer. It's around somewhere, but I can't find it. And Julian Davis, nice fella. As when you're out of your nut, you don't really know what you're saying. And I said, and there's a lot of things I should have said what I didn't say that would made it even a better book. Instead of being 14 pages, it'd been 40 pages. But because he had so many people to interview, Julian Davis, he could only do short stories, but mine was one of the long ones, and he really liked my story, yeah? So I was one of the best stories in the book, called Street Fighters, and it's this book here, look, Street Fighters, yeah? This one. And people think that's me, but that's Julian Davis, yeah? So that book's really, really good. And there's a lot of fighters in there. I mean, Lenny's not in there, Roy Shaw's not in there, Cliff Field's not in there, there's Lou Yates is not in there, even Columbo's not in there. There's a lot of people that's not in there, Paul Moriarty, Jimmy Tibbet, all them people are not in there. These are people in that book really are dormant, and people can have a fight, but not into the unlicensed fighting and all that game, not gangsters as such, yeah? But they're in that book. So I was very lucky. Barty Gorman, I was very lucky to be with Barty Gorman. I was also very lucky that I didn't even know all the time I've had that book, to be in that book with Malcolm Peace. Malcolm Peace, meaning go back years in the YP, he's also in the book, yeah? But it's mad, after all that time I see him in the book. But anyway, so eventually the probate was sorted out, and she came up one day and said, look, thank you very much for what you've done. This is for you, yeah? And she gave me an envelope. And the envelope was quite thick. Nice bit of money from me, yeah? And I couldn't believe it. So how much did Wally get, you know what I mean? So anyway, eventually I went home and I was living with my mum's. And the phone went. It was my mate Gary Francis, who had a bodybuilding gym, weightlifting gym, called G's Gym in Popes Lane. Smashing gym, mate. They should never have chucked him out of the account. So I didn't like him being there. Chucked him out there, yeah? Anyway. So he said, hey, come down, I've got something to show you. I said, what's that? He said, listen, I was at, coming back from Spain, coming through Heathrow, and I went into a shop to buy some things, and I see a book called Street Fighters. And I remember that name, Street Fighters, because Julian Davis told me that there's a book he's going to be called Street Fighters. So I knew I was listening to him. He went, come down there and we'll show you something. So I rushed down here about 100 miles an hour. And he sold me a book. And he went, you're in here, And I couldn't believe it. And I know I've shown it before, but that's good, isn't it? I mean, come on. And it's a good story as well, yeah? Some good fighters in there. Some really, really good fighters. People that are not being into the unlicensed fighting game. People are just doormen, people who are good at enforcer work and people like that. As I said, Lenny's not in there, Roy's not in there. There's a lot of people not in that book. But it doesn't make it a bad book. The book's a real good book. People that should have been in that book are in that book, yeah? Anyway, so I was really excited when I got it, yeah? I was over the moon. So then I started getting into more so the unlicensed fights and this, that and the other, yeah? And, you know, and then I always thought, well, it wasn't so much that, it was, you know, when I looked at the book, you know, you had Brian Cottrell in there, yeah? And I looked at Brian Cottrell, let's see, find Brian Cottrell in here, yeah? And I looked at Brian Cottrell, he's in here somewhere, yeah, I think it's that one. I looked at Brian Cottrell, yeah? You look at Brian Cottrell now, right? That was Brian Cottrell. Look at the size of this geezer. That was Brian Cottrell when he was called the Tax Man. Well, Brian Cottrell in that picture, I was thinking about 24 stone, a powerhouse. He's not even half the man now. He's a mess, yeah? He had a backache, something happened to his back, he had a heart attack, I think, or whatever, but he isn't the man he used to be. And a lot of people take the piss out of him. But Brian Cottrell was an enforcer. He was called the Tax Man. He was an enforcer where he come from, yeah? So, because of that, I always thought, well, not always thought, we was told that Brian was going to come down to London and fight Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw, and all these people, yeah? And then it come out that he was going to come down and fight Cliff Fields. But he couldn't have lasted around with Cliff Fields. Mind you, being he was that size, right, he wouldn't have lasted too long in the ring. But I did see him on the bag. I did see him on the pads. He was quite handy, yeah? But people like Cliff Fields would have smashed him around again. But if Brian Cottrell got near you and hit you on the chin, it'd be all over, you know. He wouldn't be able to fight Roy Shaw. I think Roy Shaw would have been too small. Roy Shaw would never have fought Brian Cottrell because Roy Shaw didn't want to fight Cliff Fields because Cliff Fields was too big. Lenny McLean might have fought Brian Cottrell. I wouldn't like to say who'd be the winner. If Lenny McLean was the same size as Brian, was he was big at that time, maybe Lenny would have won that fight. But I wouldn't like to say, yeah, because it never happened. But Cliff Fields, 100%, he couldn't have beat Cliff Fields or Johnny Waldron. So when that book come out, I was like over the moon. I was had it in my pocket and showing people this, that, and the other, yeah, because I was excited that I'm in a book. And then I was in another book, yeah, about gates, people, hard people, this, that, and the other, yeah, but only a page or 2 pages, people really talking about me, but it's nice, isn't it? And then I got really, I'm more or less in Lewisham, onto the street fighting and all things like that. I mean, I see Wally later on, and it's like, you know, and when I think about all what I went through with Jimmy Tibbett and Cliff Fields, you know, and all the unlicensed fightings I had, I think to myself, what happened? What happened? It all died, you know. It went 1 minute, you know, it went because I went back in prison for a big sentence, yeah, and everything went, you know. But before all that, you know, when I was around Jimmy Tibbett was a proper man, yeah. And so when I last night was watching television, I see the Enforcer 2, I think it's called. He come on, and there was a thing about me, Cliff Fields, Jimmy Tibbett, when we was together as an enforcer firm, when we used to go around and doing big enforcer work together and get money. And I often think to myself, what happened to those days, yeah? What happened to them days? Because I used to love them days. I really did. We used to go, you know, we used to go out and earn money for Eddie Richardson, go and collect debts, doing enforcer work and all that, yeah? And then Terry Sharp. I like Terry Sharp. Terry Sharp used to box. Terry Sharp and his son. Terry Coombs, Terry Coombs was a fighter, an enforcer, a bodyguard, everything, yeah. And same as Paul Moriarty from Razors, Long Good Friday. Paul Moriarty go back a long way. The old man, the old man and Paul Moriarty used to be together quite a bit. Paul liked to watch me boxing, Paul Moriarty, and then I got involved with Brian Cox. Brian Cox at that time was a thin guy, looked like a college boy, yeah. He'd had a car accident, bashed his leg up, but they all had equity cards, yeah. They all had equity cards, Jimmy Tibbet, Paul Moriarty, the two old brothers, Gypsy Tom, Terry Coombs, Terry Sharp. They all had equity tickets, cards. And they was all trying to tell me to get one. I thought, well, I should have done, but I didn't. So I was a fool because they all got on films and all that. And so then me and Brian Cox went back a long way. Went back a long, long way. Brian Cox stood bail for me on one of my charges, yeah. Brian Cox loved to watch me box. Brian Cox was the one that gave me Call for Cats, the record Call for Cats. So when I come down to fight, they'd play that record Call for Cats. Brian Cox done that. Brian Cox also gave me a name. My name wasn't Bang Bang Ray Hill. My name was something else that I ain't going to say on my video, because it's a name that might get me in a little bit of trouble, because that name that people anyway. So Brian Cox gave me that name, but it's the name I used to use when I was to fight. So Brian Cox and me was very close. As I said, he stood bail for me, Brian Cox. And then Brian Cox used to like my sister, even though I don't want to talk about my sister, but I've got to say, he used to like my sister. He got involved with my sister with the horses. He liked the horses, and he was supposed to be coming around the house for dinner. Whether or not he did, I don't know, because I wasn't around. But he used to come around my house and see my sister about the horses, talk to her. He liked my sister, Brian Cox. So when Jimmy Tibbet stood bail for me with Brian Cox, he took me back, you know what I mean? He took me back. And then a lot happened to me. Things, crazy things, you know. I become more of an enforcer. I worked with a couple of my pals. I used to do bad things. I used to get lots of money by taking things off of people. You know, just taking things off of people. You know, said I got this, said I got that. I remember one day, there was these two Welsh guys, yeah, and they was into puff, but into the solid, yeah, into the four bars to a key, into that, yeah. And I decided, because we were dealing with it, it's easy to have him over, yeah. So we wrapped all this sugar, pound bags of sugar, up in the tape, yeah. And I made a deal with them, give them it, they give me the cash. I was out of order, you know what I mean? But it happened, it worked. Got into the car, I had a 2 litre Toyota, 2.8 Toyota, went like a lunatic, zoom, and the old bill was up my arse. Whether or not I got grassed up by someone, I don't know what happened, but it wasn't good. Up my arse, zoom, zoom. I pulled over to the left, up my arse, zoom, zoom. Pulled back to the right, zoom, zoom. So now I know they need me, yeah. I goes to the roundabout. I was going to shoot off, yeah, but I didn't. So the driver, I looked over, down my window, and the old Bill said, "Pull over there, mate." I said, "What's happening?" He said, "Pull over there, I want to talk to you." I went, "Yeah." Boom! I was gone. And then his 2.8 a little super can shoot, shift, it was gone. And the old Bill up my arse, but I drove up this hill, and it's not all that wide, and there's a bus coming down. I'm going up. I'm going to do a left, a right into this road, bosh, and the bus hit me, crash, hit me. I went down the road anyway, this little clip, and what can I do? At the end of the road was a big fence, so I went crash, right into the fence, into the graveyard. And the old Bill jumps out the motor. I don't know why we ran. I really don't know why we ran. Because me and the guy that I was with at that time, we could have handled these two anyway. We could have just tied them up, put them back in their motor, but we didn't. He ran. He had something that he should have had, that he had. He ran for that reason, to get rid of it. They chased him. I had the money in the motor. I left the money, chased the old Bill that was chasing him, to get hold of the old Bill, to stop him get hold of my mate who had something, yeah? So as I was getting out and trying to get this old Bill, there's another one up my arse, chasing me, the driver. They left the money in the car. So it's raining, there's mud everywhere. I'm trying to run, anyway, they're trying to run, we're trying to run. My mate gets away. They can't get him because I've got the old Bill now. I'm on with him. So I've stopped the old Bill. I'll run over this mountain to get away, and I'm full of mud. I run between this gate and the fence. These scaffolders are doing scaffolding. They've seen me run. They've seen the old Bill out of me. The old Bill is shouting, and these scaffolders thinking, you think they're proper geezers like us scaffolders, yeah? But they wasn't. They was arseholes. Because they tried to stop me, yeah? They was chucking padlocks at me and fittings and everything at me, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it, mate. And I looked up at them, I pointed to them, and I went, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I ran out, and the old Bill had me. They got me on the motor. I was knackered. I mean, all jokes aside, the police officer that I chinned, the one I chinned who was chasing my pal, I knocked his spark out, yeah, and they had me on the motor like this, and he was there holding his jaw. Why did you hit me? Why did you hit me? Like that. Why did you hit me? Well, was this going to stop you because of this and stop you because of that, you know? But I don't know, something because it was under a lot. Something was wrong, but something wasn't right. So they got me here. They got me in Chiswick Police Station. They then took me to another police station, and they tried to do me for a robbery, and our robbery went on, and you know the guys got I was supposed to be the driver, so I said to him, "Are you sure I'm supposed to be the driver? You see what happened to me in the car I was in? How could I be a driver? I couldn't get away." But they said, "Look, we found this money, but I did get bail. My father-in-law got me bail. He got a solicitor, top solicitor down, got me bail." But they eventually took me to court, the old Bill. Done me for chilling police officer. The money that was in the car, the judge awarded that to the police for them to put that in their some trust, yeah, for them, for the police. I said, what about my money? What? Because they couldn't prove where the money come from, but I couldn't prove where it come from, so they just confiscated it from me. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That was crazy. Anyway, bang bang. I'll do another story later. That was fantastic. Good, nice one.